Well, the news has just broken that Max Scherzer has indeed been traded to the Texas Rangers. So I figured I'd come on, do a bit of an emergency podcast right now, and let's talk about Max Scherzer, his career, just the legacy he leaves as a New York Met. And I do want to talk a little bit about Luisangel Acuna, the prospect that the Mets acquired as well. So, hey, there's like no prep going into this right now. I just had to come on right now. So, hey, what the heck? Let's do a little Wednesday Night Live, but on a Saturday. And well, welcome back to New York Sports WickerMedia. I'm Watsu K99, and we are doing an emergency show. So the news has just broken. Max Scherzer is indeed traded. I wanted to come on live. You know what? The Mets are already down to the Washington Nationals 5-0. And I've got a feeling the way that Carlos Carrasco is pitching, I have a feeling it's going to get worse before it gets better. So I wanted to come on here and talk a little bit about this trade, just what it all means, where this franchise really is, and just spend a moment or two just reminiscing, if you will, about the legacy of one Maximilian Scherzer. Max of $41 million a year Scherzer, you might say. So the trade is basically this. I think Joe DeMayo is the one that I saw break the terms of it. So the Mets trade Scherzer to Texas. And Texas is going to be responsible for $22.5 million. Now, the holdup with the trade was Scherzer still wanted the option to be able to become a free agent after the 2023 season because he had a player option going into 2024. Texas wanted the guarantee that he would remain a Ranger going into 2024. Well, he is going to keep that opt-out. He has waived his no-trade clause. He is on his way to the Texas Rangers. Isn't it amazing that the Texas Rangers just love taking the old New York Mets pitchers, don't they? DeGrom and now Scherzer. They just keep taking the aces. It really is crazy. But in return, the Mets get an absolute stud prospect, Luisangel Acuna. And indeed, Luisangel Acuna is the younger brother of Atlanta Braves superstar Ronald Acuna Jr. And I'm looking up his notes. So the guy can play multiple positions. By the way, if you're stopping by, please hit that like button. I'd appreciate it very much. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share this channel with a friend. We're talking Mets, Jets, Rangers, Knicks. We go into the Yankees. We go into the Giants. Whatever is going on, we'll talk about it. But Luisangel Acuna, you know what? Billy Epler had been getting a lot of flack about the David Robertson trade where he acquired essentially two kids, two 18-year-olds who I think are just about able to get into an R-rated movie if they so desire. This kid they got, and those prospects are ranked, I believe, 18 and 21 overall in the Miami Marlins system. Not Luisangel Acuna. He is ranked the number 3 prospect in the Texas Rangers organization. Jack Leiter, who is Al Leiter's son, is now ranked 5th. And it looks like it's pretty much Acuna is the only player that the Mets will be acquiring. So this year he is. So let's talk about Acuna a little bit. I want to start with the good news because we need some good news right now as Mets fans. So he is 21 years old from Venezuela. He is on the Texas Rangers 40-man roster. Now this year he's playing in Double-A with Frisco. It's his second year playing in Double-A. He played a few games last year. And up until this point, he is hitting .315 in Double-A, okay, .377 on-base percentage, .453 slugging percentage, an on-base plus slugging of .830. That is fantastic. 25 doubles, 7 home runs, 51 RBIs. Let's see, 42 stolen bases in 84 games. Wow. Yeah, this guy's got some power, and he's got some speed. This is one of those blue chippers, you might say. Oh, we see some. I see a comment. John Post is here. Hey, Post, good to see you, man. Thanks for stopping in. Yeah, it's funny. Everybody wanted Billy Epler gone, and a lot of people still want Billy Epler gone, and justifiably so. I said myself on Twitter, if Billy Epler could not get at least a top 10 organizational prospect for the top relief pitcher on the market in David Robertson, he ought to be on the next train out of here, back to California, wherever the hell he came from. But to get this prospect, he is pretty much going to be the Mets' number one prospect. I really think. I think he goes to the top of the list. Kevin Parada, Alex Ramirez, Jet Williams, Blade Tidwell, Ronnie Mauricio, you name the guy, Acuna is going to lap all of them. Okay, so I am super happy about this trade because the Mets got an elite prospect and a kid who, by the way, is projected to hit the major leagues probably late next year, but definitely by 2025. And he can play multiple positions, center, shortstop, center field. You can put him in all kinds of places. And again, I think a lot of times people get a little bit hung up on the position. If you could play a position, you could play a position. Players get moved in the minor leagues to different positions all the time. So to me, I'm not as hung up about that. And you know what? If you're good enough, if you have talent, a smart organization will find playing time for you. And I'm not saying the Mets are by any means. The Mets don't seem to have a very good feel on when to call up their own players, on how to evaluate their players. They were convinced Francisco Alvarez could not play defense. And that isn't exactly turning out to be true. He's been a great pitch framer. Absolutely excellent. Outside of his power, I would actually say the thing I'm second most excited about with Francisco Alvarez is his defensive ability. Not his speed, not his contact hitting. I really like the kid's defense and his moxie. So, yeah, but for them to get Acuna is really, really good. There were also rumors about Brock Porter, who was the fourth-ranked prospect in the Rangers system. It doesn't work out. But let's take just a moment here. We'll do the little bit of an ode to Max Scherzer. If I could play the old Undertaker theme music right now, I would. Probably copyright issues. So let's give a dong, dong. I'll just give him one of those for the end of one of the most underwhelming performances in the history of the New York Mets. When Scherzer signed, 99% of Mets fans were thrilled. After losing Jacob deGrom in free agency, what other move was there to make? I'm sorry, deGrom was there last year, but the Mets needed to upgrade their rotation. That's the bottom line. And Scherzer was the best man to do the job, it felt like. He pitched in big games. He had won a championship. Showed the ability to pitch deep into games, great strikeout pitcher, and had the attitude. He felt like that kind of guy that could handle New York. And I don't think it's an issue in this case where New York broke him down. I don't think that's the case at all. I just think he was worn down. And for what he was paid, basically $40 million a year, he's basically a middle of the rotation starter at best. But the key is every time Scherzer pitched in a big spot, whether it was the series in Atlanta last year in September, whether it was the Padres in the playoffs, whether it was the Yankee game this year, other games against the Padres and Braves this season, the Dodgers, every time except that one, I think he had one good game against the Dodgers, but I remember a Dodger game last year that didn't go so well. But every time he got into a big spot, he failed. Max Scherzer was always prone to giving up a whole lot of home runs, and with the Mets, it became an absolute pandemic, the way he would give up home runs. Giving up this year, 1.9 home runs per 9 innings, essentially giving up a home run every 5 innings, which is just, nothing short of unacceptable. Before that, he give up a home run maybe once a game with Washington, with Detroit, with Arizona, but man, oh man, it has really become a problem. And another thing that's been an issue really is his walks have become more of an issue. The strikeout to walk ratio has continued to sink. It wasn't that great with Arizona, but with the Dodgers and the Nationals, it was great. With the Mets this year, his strikeout to walk ratio, let's see, this season, let's pull these stats back up. He's got 121 strikeouts and 30 walks, and that this season, and that's in 107 innings. Let me give you a little context on that. Last year, Max Scherzer pitched 145 innings for the Mets. He walked, I can't believe this is actually true, 24 batters all year. Max Scherzer gave up 24 walks in 145 innings. This year, he's given up 30 in 107. Also, he is leading the league in most home runs allowed with 23. No pitcher in all of Major League Baseball has given up more home runs than Scherzer. And his ERA right now is over 4. The last time Max Scherzer had an ERA over 4 was 2011 when he was 26. That was his second year with the Detroit Tigers. I mean, it is completely fallen apart. And I do wonder if the money has a little something to do with the perception here. I've seen some people online, guys from WFAN, ESPN, talk about Max Scherzer is the worst free agent signing the Mets have ever had. I'm not going to go that far because last year he did do some things well. Last year, he pitched 145 innings. When he was healthy, he was good. 145 innings. He had a whip under 1, 0.908. If your whip is under 1, walks plus hits divided by innings pitched, you're doing very well. His ERA last year was 2.29. So you can't tell me Max Scherzer was a complete bust. As Mark Vientos doubles home Mark Canha. All right, you're on the mark, Vientos. That's not the same when it's not a home run. Yeah, it's a 5-1 game, bottom of second. Excuse me if I'm not turning cartwheels. But the thing is, Scherzer was good. Scherzer was a good bully pitcher with the Mets, especially last year. He beat decent teams. He beat bad teams. But when the money was on the line, he failed. So I can't say that Max Scherzer was never a productive New York Met. That would be disingenuous if I was to say that. But in terms of what he was paid, what the expectations were, you can call him the most disappointing New York Met, the most underachieving New York Met free agent of all time. And that is saying a lot. That is saying a lot when you're talking about a franchise that has had just such illustrious free agent signings such as Jason Bay, Oliver Perez, Bobby Bonilla, Vince Coleman to replace Darryl Strawberry. That was just a stellar move. Oh, my goodness. I got to tell you guys, I'm rereading the book, The Worst Team Money Could Buy, about the 92 Mets, and the stories I'm reading about some of these guys like Vince Coleman. Oh, my God. What Al Harrison and Frank Cashin were thinking about, thinking that Vince Coleman could replace Darryl Strawberry in the outfield. My Lord in heaven. But you know what? Scherzer had higher expectations than anybody, and that's also because the expectations for this team were so high. It was about winning a World Series. It wasn't about being in playoff contention. It wasn't about, challenging Atlanta or Philadelphia for a division title. This is the most expensive team in the history of professional sports. Not football, not higher than basketball, higher than hockey, higher than all of that. The Mets are the most expensive team in sports history. And Max Scherzer is going to go down as the poster boy for their failure and for their garbage, which is all we saw since September of last year, and it absolutely continued. They are undergoing one of the worst hangovers of all time. They never, ever, ever recovered from losing that series to Atlanta in 3 games when they got absolutely whipped by the Braves. And as somebody who hates the Braves more than any other team in sports, more than the New England Patriots, more than you name it, the Braves are the bane of my existence. I just cannot stand the thought of them being this good again, having to live through another Braves dynasty. They may as well just sign Tom Brady on and have him play baseball. They may as well. That's how much I despise them. Johnny Jimenez, hey man, good to see you. Yep, and we got little Acuna. Yep, we talked about him a little bit. Yeah, I'm still looking for some more updates about this. If there's more news, but again, I strongly expect Acuna will be the Mets' #1 ranked prospect very, very soon. He is going to really help the value of the overall organization. Just a reminder: Scherzer did exercise his player contract. Oh. We do have breaking news about the contract. Max Scherzer. Yep, John Post, you just said it. He has exercised his player option. He will indeed be a Texas Ranger through next season. So this is not going to be an Aroldis Chapman situation where, you trade the guy and you hope to resign him at the end of the season. So just think about it. Next year, the Rangers will have Scherzer for sure. And maybe at the end of the season, they'll be able to bring Jacob deGrom back, coming back from Tommy John surgery. He had the surgery around May, June. It's a long shot, but if the Rangers are in it, there is a situation where deGrom could come back at the very end of the season. And can't you just see it now? Can't you just see? Can't you see the Texas Rangers making a playoff run in 2024 behind Scherzer and deGrom after they just stumped the bit up in the playoffs with the Mets? Wouldn't that be just the most typical Met scenario ever? That would encapsulate the life of a Mets fan. If Scherzer and DeGrom next year lead the Rangers to a deep playoff run. My goodness. But yeah, those are my thoughts on, I think the Mets, if they haven't already, I think they have a promotion day coming up, or they may have just had it, where they're giving out Max Scherzer glasses, sunglasses. And of course, one eye is brown and the other eye is like that blue or green color, whatever it is that he has. Oh my gosh, who's going to be wearing those? You talk about a wasted promotion. Oh my gosh. And I will say this about Justin Verlander. Yeah, the promotion is going to be August 16th. Yeah, Steve, I hope they haven't started constructing those glasses yet. They'd be better off to give out old school Bret the Hitman Hart WWF sunglasses. I'd rather wear a pair of those right now. My Lord. But as far as where the Mets go from here, there's a lot of pitching coming out next year. There's a lot of starting pitching that's available because this team is going to have to rework its rotation. You've got Kodai Senga. You've got Jose Quintana. What do you have besides that? Who knows? Justin Verlander, I don't expect him to be traded at this point. Verlander's been very good, especially as of late. He's got a 1.69 ERA in July. I don't know if you could consider him an ace at this point, but as a 2 to 3 sort of a starter along with Senga, I'm fine with that. I'm fine having Verlander on my team. That's good. So if you have those three, David Peterson's a tricky situation. He has not proved he's a starter in the major leagues, but he's looked pretty good coming out of the bullpen. And maybe his best role is to be a long man in the bullpen. I mean, maybe that's what he needs to be. Maybe it really is. But the Mets will absolutely need, I think, 2 more starting pitchers because you can't have enough starting pitching, as we well know. And some of the names coming out, Shohei Ohtani is the one everybody knows. But besides that, you've got, off the top of my head, without looking this up, Julio Urias, I know, is one from the LA Dodgers, who has been a very good pitcher for quite some time, not having the best season as of right now, but somebody who's pitched in big spots. Plus, he's a lefty, which the Mets could use another lefty in the starting rotation. I like the idea of also weakening the LA Dodgers and bringing him in to sort of anchor that rotation in Citi Field. So you have Urias is one. I mentioned Ohtani. Also, I'm pretty sure that oh my gosh, who's here? Well, there is Lucas Giolito, but he's kind of a mid-level rotation starter in my mind as well. Blake Snell could make a lot of sense from San Diego. I like the idea of bringing him in. If you're looking for something cheaper, maybe a Jordan Montgomery would be available. James Paxton, I don't know. He's with the Dodgers right now, but who's to say? I could have sworn there was one other one that really happened. Charlie Morton, screw him. He's got a club option. The last person I think I want to see is Charlie Morton. Marcus Stroman has a player option for $21 million. There is a better chance of me pitching for the New York Mets next year than Marcus Stroman. That shit ain't happening, guys. Okay. Can you imagine a reunion with Marcus Stroman and the New York Mets? That has zero, and I mean zero, chance of happening. Zero. Oh, yes, Aaron Nola. That's what I was trying to think of. Aaron Nola is a free agent as well. I'm very interested in the idea of the Mets bringing in Nola as a starting pitcher. Jack Flaherty, to me, post swig of water for the working man. Yeah, I actually just finished baking a sour orange pie, which is a big pie in northern Florida. That's kind of chilling out on the stove right now. This news broke, and I had to come on. So, but actually, I've got a birthday coming up in 2 days, so I'm not a big cake guy. But I baked a sour orange pie, which has like some orange and lemon in it. So I'm really excited to try. I made the crust out of animal crackers, an animal cracker pie crust. So I'll let you all know how that turns out. Jack Flaherty to me is a whatever happened to kind of story. Flaherty is one of those guys. I seem to draft him in fantasy every single year, and every year he disappoints. So if you're bringing in Flaherty for a couple of $1 million and you give him an opportunity to win a starting pitcher spot, fine. But you can't bring him. He cannot be your top free agent acquisition in my mind. For me, if I had to rank them, my top 5, Ohtani is obviously number 1. Number 2, I think it would be Nola. 2 would be Urias. 3 would be Nola. 4 would be Snell, and I'd say 5 would be Lucas Giolito. So I really, really hope the Mets bring in at least one of those pitchers next season to help really anchor that starting rotation. So that is kind of where my thoughts are as far as that goes. But yeah, Scherzer 39 years old. And, this actually brings me back to the David Robertson trade, because why couldn't the New York Mets hold on a little bit longer? Maybe they could have gotten some better prospects. So here's the thing. We don't know what Ronald Hernandez and what's the other guy? Marco, I believe his name is. Yeah, I think that was it. I'm sorry. I got to look this back up. I remember Ronald Hernandez, but sorry about this, guys. Yeah, Ronald Hernandez is the catcher, so he's like 18 years old. And yeah, and then the other one was, that's right, Marco Vargas. That's right. Okay, so yeah, both are definitely plus prospects, round number 20 in the Marlins organization. That's all well and good, but you have to want, maybe the idea was they had to move on. Maybe they had to make that trade so they would have a chance to make other trades, including the Max Scherzer trade. Because you know what? You can't let every trade wait until the trade deadline, which is August 1st. I believe it's Tuesday this year. I personally prefer the trade deadline on July 31st since it is my birthday. Hey, Yoenis Cespedes was once my birthday present. And then another year, my birthday present was Chris Benson and Victor Zambrano. That one didn't go quite as well now, did it? So yeah, so that's pretty much what I think about that. I don't mind them trading Roberts. I don't care that they traded Robertson in the division because he's a rental anyway. He's not going to stay with Miami after this season. There's no way that is going to happen. Okay, so I'm not worried about that. I'm a little bit more upset that they didn't at least get one player who won't be ready to help the team next season. If they'd gotten one of these 18-year-old kids, one of these teenagers, and another guy, a good prospect who can conceivably, like a relief pitcher who can help the Mets next season. If they had gotten that, I think I would have liked that trade a little bit more. I don't hate the trade yet. I don't think I have the right to hate the trade because we won't know the fruits of that trade for another 5 years. We don't know what these kids are going to be. Neither of them are going to be in the major leagues until at least 2026. So you can't say that the trade distinctively was good or bad, but you can say in the short term, it's not going to help the Mets whatsoever. This trade, on the other hand, the Scherzer trade, will help the Mets, and I think it's going to help them as soon as next year. So that's one of the reasons why I'm so excited, because the Mets are not a team that's completely rebuilding from the ground up. This is a team that is retooling. That is what is going on. All right. Now let's see if there's any other details on this trade. Okay, so Texas receives Max Scherzer. The Mets receive Luisangel Acuna, brother of Ronald Acuna. Scherzer opts into 2024. The Rangers will pay Scherzer $22.5 million. The Mets will cover over $35 million. It must be nice when you can light your cigars with $100 bills like Steve Cohen clearly can. My gosh, him buying art is like me buying a biscuit at Chick-fil-A by comparison. So, whatever the money is, hey, it's his money. If it doesn't count towards the luxury tax, what do I care? It's fine with, I'm sure that 35 will count towards the overall charge, but let's see what kind of opportunity this does bring for the New York Mets. Clearly, the Max Scherzer era will go down as an absolute disappointment, but I want to be fair. I'm not going to call it a complete bust, but when the big moments came, Max Scherzer was an abject failure, and you simply can't sugarcoat that. Okay, let's go back to the meaningless game and see what's going on. Yep, so why is Danny Mendick still playing? Danny Mendick should never be starting. I'm sorry. Luis Garcia single, stole second base. Stone Garrett walked, and Riley Adams doubled. It is now a 7-1 Washington lead in the third inning. You know what? Leave Carrasco out there. Let him pitch till his arm falls. He's not going to be back. He's not going to be back next season anyway. You know what? I don't even care. Just pitch these pitchers who are not going to be here next year. Dominic Sonny Corleone. Let him keep pitching. He's not going to be back next year. So, yeah, those types of guys, what do we even care anymore? What if we care if we keep pitching them until their arms fall off? So I want Carrasco on the mound. I want him pitching. Let him go 100 pitches. Hey, here's a thought. Maybe my fellow Bartolo Colon, who's now getting to retire as a Met in a couple of weeks. They're going to be giving out big, sexy T-shirts Now, for those of you who don't know, his first name is my last name, so I always call him my fellow Bartolo. Always have and always will. I can still tell you the story of the home run. I was supposed to be in San Diego with the 7-Line Army that night. Due to work conflicts, I was not able to go, and instead I was at a painting night with a now ex-girlfriend. So yeah, and I still have the sunset painting that I painted. But I was painting, and all of a sudden my phone starts blowing up. I wasn't really looking at my phone because I was painting, and I had paint on my hands and all this kind of stuff. And I get about 15 different text messages. I had about 9 or 10 Facebook alerts finding out that my fellow Bartolo hit the home run. And to this day, it still irks me that I was not able to be in San Diego for that game. But it's very funny. I'm very happy he's retiring as a Met because he's so identified with the team. But you got to remember, Colon was only a Met for 3 years, from 2014 to 2016. And here's the thing. If I had to ask you, if you're a Mets fan, what are Bartolo Colon's 3 distinctive moments as a New York Met, what would you say? What would you say? The home run, everybody would be on the list. I think when he did that flip against the Marlins, when he had to make this ridiculous play against Miami, at Miami, if you remember that particular defensive play, that would be another one. But what is the pitch? What is the game that he was involved in where he said that is Bartolo Colon's signature pitch or pitching moment or game as a New York Met? For me, he had a huge strikeout of Chris Bryant in the NLCS that I never, ever forgot. And I was amazed that Colon was able to do that, to strike out a very, very dangerous hitter like that in such a big spot. But I think that's been a very overlooked at-bat from that particular series. I don't remember the game off the top of my head, but I know it was a big moment. Colon came in as a reliever and struck out Chris Bryant. That was super clutch. And I really do hope that when Colon comes in, and he has his little moment. They'll show video highlights. I'm sure they will. I really hope that they highlight moments like that because Bartolo Colon was more than just a home run that he hit. He was more than a fat guy who hit a home run. He was a character. He really was that. But he was one of the best free agent signings the Mets had in a long time. Think about it. Curtis Granderson. Who else you putting up there? In that 2000s era. The Mets traditionally, like we talked about, are a team that stinks when it comes to free agency for the most part, whether it's Bay, Murray, Bonilla, all these different guys. A lot of these free agents, now you add Scherzer to the list. A lot of them failed miserably, okay? But Colon was one of the better ones. I would say Carlos Beltran, Curtis Granderson, Bartolo Colon. You can make a case that those are the top 3 Mets free agent signings of all time. I can't count Piazza because he was a trade and then they signed him to a contract, right? Who else is there? If you could think of another Mets free agent, hey, folks in the chat, who, in your opinion, who are the best Mets free agent signings of all time? I want to get your guys' opinions on there. I'd like to get your thoughts. I can think of Beltran, Granderson, and Colon. Those are the first 3 that I have in mind. Other than that, I'm trying to think a little bit more recently here. Yeah, John Olerud was a trade. The Mets traded Robert Person in one of the best heists they've ever had to Toronto to get John Olerud in. Man, that worked out really, really well. Yeah, it seems like a lot of these other guys they were just like decent players. A lot of them were just fringe players, but the Mets haven't signed a lot of free agent stars who really worked out. John Post, that's tough. All the guys you can think of are trades. I know, man. Hernandez, Carter, Ojeda, Darling, Hojo. If you think about, I got an idea. I'm going to look up the Mets Hall of Fame. I want to see. We're going back a little bit, but I'm just curious how many of these guys were free agents. I can't imagine there's many of them. Let's see here. I'm pulling up the Mets Hall of Fame list. Yeah, I think it's coming up right now. Okay, here it is. Okay. So they got all the broadcasters up top. Okay, so after we get past like the 69 era and all those guys. So Mookie Wilson, they drafted him. Keith Hernandez, trade. Gary Carter, trade. Tommy Agee, 69. He was a trade. Doc Gooden drafted Davey Johnson, manager. Darryl Strawberry, they drafted him. John Franco was a trade for Randy Myers. We'll go back to the chat here. I want to see if you guys have anything here. Yeah, still all trades. Going through some other players. Piazza was a trade. John Matlack was drafted. Ron Darling was a trade. Edgardo Alfonso was drafted. Hojo was a trade with the Tigers. Al Leiter was a trade as well. There is not one free agent that the Mets have signed who has made the Mets Hall of Fame. That is crazy. That is absolutely crazy. Hey, Ketty. Hey, Kayetti. Good to see you, man. Yep, I decided to go on live and do a little bit of an emergency live. I'm here in Cary, North Carolina. For those of you wondering, Mom's doing okay. I was with her today for about 5 hours in the hospital. So she did have brain surgery. For those who may not have heard that news, she had to have a tumor removed that was causing hearing loss. It was about an 8 to 9 hour procedure, which was a lot longer than we thought it would go, but it went well. And right now she has a little bit of part of her face is paralyzed, but it should recover relatively soon. The nerve is good. And the hope is she'll be able to go home tomorrow, I think Monday at the latest. But she is able to walk around a little bit. Just dealing with some issues like not being able to close her left eye all the way. That's probably the biggest issue that she's having. But slowly but surely, she's getting a little bit better and a little bit less pain medication needed. So just want to give you an update on my mom because it is important for me. Changes with Ohtani. I'd say that would qualify. I don't see why Shohei Ohtani is going to come here because he is going to emphasize, he's going to prioritize being comfortable over being rich. He'll make plenty of money. He will get $50 million a year no matter what. I have no question in my mind that's going to happen. But I don't know if he's a guy who's going to want to come to New York. Maybe he will. Maybe he will. I don't think the Mets will be outbid for him. But they are going to have to really, really sell him. And coming off a season like this, how, if you're the New York Mets, do you sell Shohei Ohtani that they are the place that he needs to come to? What are you going to sell him on after this season? It's a tough question, isn't it? Yeah, because this core, they've been together now for about 4 years, really since 2019, and they've never even won a playoff series. It's really, really, really frustrating. I'm going to do a quick Twitter check, see if there's anything else. By the way, looks like Acuna is listed as the number 44 prospect overall. I'm going to see if I can find Keith Law's prospect ratings. I want to see what Acuna is rated overall. Let's see. So top, that's on The Athletic, isn't it? Okay, so I might have to get a little bit creative here. Keith. But can anybody think of another free agent? Can anybody think of another free agent that the Mets signed who was really worked out well? Beltran, Granderson, Cologne. I feel like that's the three. You can't even have a Mount Rushmore of Mets free agents because we don't have 4 great ones. Sorry, it's amazing. It just really, really is amazing. I gotta find this. I want to find out kind of where he's rated overall. I know he's the number 3 ranked prospect in the Texas Rangers organization. Actually, you know what? I'm going to read a little scouting report on Luisangel Acuna. All right, currently playing with the Frisco Rough Riders, 21 years old, 5'8", 181 pounds. So he's kind of stocky. He's kind of small, but he's got some muscle on him. Bats right, throws righty. Was signed July 2nd, 2018. Estimated time of arrival in the majors is 2024. So scouting grades, hitting is a 55. Now I think the scouting rankings go from 20 as a low to 80 as a high. 55 hit, power 45, running 55, arm 60, field 50. All right, so that is pretty raw. So they're ranking his number 1 attribute as his throwing arm. Okay, well, that's interesting. All right, so let's read a little bit of news here. Signed in 2018 for $425,000, 4 times more than Ronald received from the Braves. While he doesn't have the same superstar ceiling as his sibling, he offers plenty of upside. He batted 342 with a 438 and 455 on base slugging in the rookie level Dominican Summer League during his pro debut last year. With a quick right-handed swing and aggressive approach, he lashes line drives to all fields. I like that. All right, deceptively explosive considering his size. He's generally listed at 5'10", but the ranking here says 5'8". He makes consistent hard contact and walked more than he struck out in his introduction to pro ball. I got to tell you, that's important to me because the Mets are a very strikeout-prone team. Even their young kids, they're putting a lot of hope in, and Beatty and Alvarez are very, very prone to striking out. Nemo's prone to striking out. Lindor as well. Alonso not as much, but really a lot of their best players, a lot of the Mets position players are very strikeout prone. So if this guy at least makes contact, that is very encouraging. Okay, once he gets stronger and learns to pull more pitches and drive them in the air, he'll start tapping into a solid raw power. Acuna earned solid to plus grades for his speed, giving him 20-20 potential, 20 home runs, 20 stolen bases. With his quickness and plus arm, he'll definitely play up the middle, but perhaps not at shortstop. Well, definitely not with the Mets he won't. He made 14 errors in 30 games at short during his debut, looked more comfortable in second base, and can also end up in center field. Oh, it looks like here on this ranking overall, in the top 100 on MLB.com. Is this right? Oh, my God. Please let this be right. So going into this season, okay, because I think he was ranked most recently 17th. Oh, yeah, this is, 20. Okay, let's get the 2023 top 100. The list that it actually sent me was from 2020. When I saw Gavin Lux on the list, I knew something was screwed up. Okay, it still makes me sick that P. Crow Armstrong is the number 7 prospect in baseball, and the Mets traded him for a couple of rentals. Really, really frustrating. All right, so I'm looking through the top 100. Sebastian Walcott, that was another guy the Mets were apparently rumored to be getting. Shortstop, though, ranked 97 overall. Let's see. Let me see if Acuna's on the top 100 list. And this was going into the season. I want to mention that. Yeah, 44 overall. Okay, and Owen White, who is another prospect in the Rangers organization's 43. Now with the Mets, by the way, just in case anybody's wondering, the Mets had 3 on the top 100. You had Jet Williams at 80, who I like a whole lot. Ronnie Mauricio 56 and Kevin Parada 39. So they were the 3 Mets ranked in the top 100. So now you add a 4th. Now you add Acuna, who has very, very high upside. Maybe not the level of Acuna, but Acuna is probably going to be the MVP of the National League this year. So, hey, if he's anywhere close to his brother, sign me up right now. If he's 3/4 of the player that Ronald is, I'll consider this a fantastic trade. No doubt about it. But the fact that the Mets are paying here's another thing. The Mets are paying a lot of money on this contract, and that's important. I think that is the reason they were able to get Acuna. Because years ago with the Wilpons owning the team, there was no chance that would happen. They basically gave away Billy Wagner to the Red Sox for just cash. They wanted cash, not prospects. It wasn't long ago that was the way that the Mets were living. And even though this season has sucked, it has been one of the most frustrating seasons I can remember as a baseball fan in my whole life, in my, let's call it 3.5 decades of being a fan of this franchise. The fact that Steve Cohen is the owner gives me hope. Now, the other thing that's going to give me hope is when David Stearns gets hired this coming October, God willing, or November, and he pushes Billy Epler right out the door. Because I have confidence that David Stearns knows how to build an organization. I think he wants to be a Met. I think he wants to be here. This is where he's from. And, Milwaukee just wouldn't let him go. But now his contract's up after this season. And that is what I put my hope in. I believe that the Mets are going to put the systems in place to be able to scout talent and develop talent. But that takes time to really implement. But you also have to be able to scout and as well. You have to scout raw talent and then develop it. Both have to happen. And that's why teams like the Dodgers are as good as they are. The Dodgers not only have had one of the best teams for years in baseball, they consistently have a top 5 farm system, which is amazing because they're never drafting in the top 10 or the top 20. It's always towards the bottom. but they make the best out of what they have to work with. And you have to credit the organization that they are able to do that. So that's what the Mets are going to try to turn into, and they are definitely getting some raw talent to work with. Now, the hope is they get some pitching, because this franchise is very, very short on pitching. If you look at the Mets' top 30 prospects overall in 2023, okay, so the top 30 guys, the first four are all position players. 5 out of the first 6 are position players, and that does include Marco Vargas. Vargas is rated the 6th best Mets prospect already. Now, and looking at this, and the other thing that's interesting, they've only got one left-handed pitcher in their top 30, Luis Rodriguez, who's 20 years old in Class A ball right now. Okay, so the Mets are very, very short on pitching. Now, they've got a few right-handed pitchers in the organization, pretty much with the exception of Mike Vassell. They're pretty much all in Double-A or Single-A right now. So these guys are all 2 to 3 years from arriving. So when you hear certain podcasters out there, I don't want to mention anybody by name, but if you hear certain podcasters, content creators from the Mets say this team has no pitching, former WFAN radio hosts say the Mets have no pitching, that's BS. The Mets do have good pitching. It's just that it's years away and it's not going to be ready. Okay, Eddie, Lenny Dykstra. Lenny Dykstra, I'm pretty sure was Dykstra was a Mets draft pick. Yeah. I'll double check him, but I'm 90% sure the Mets drafted him out of like California. It was like Fullerton or something like that. Let's check it out. The Mets signed Dykstra as a 13th round draft pick in 1981. Yeah, and he was committed to play at Arizona State, but he said he would play professionally if drafted high enough. Mets drafted him in 1981, and the rest is history. So. Yeah, you can't even count Dykstra as a free agent either. Yeah, I mean, can we come up with another Mets free agent who's been good? It's unbelievable. I mean, Robin Ventura. that's about the Paul LaDuca. that's about all I got for you guys. That's about all with Mets free agents in terms of ones who are good, who are legitimately good. So. Yeah, hey, maybe Can you imagine the Mets having like a banner for their free agents, the best free agents in Mets history, and you're leading the list off with Carlos Beltran, which is fine, but then you go to Curtis Granderson, who is an okay player. I like Curtis, great guy. I've eaten at a sports bar in Chicago a bunch of times, the 50-50. I'll tell you one thing, at the 50-50, they had a sandwich there. I don't know if they have it anymore, but they had a sandwich called a 4-courser sandwich. Okay, now the 4-courser sandwich. And this bar is near Damon and Division, so it's on the north side. Damon and Division off the Blue Line in Chicago. So this sandwich, it's a pretzel bun, toasted. They make their own house smoked pulled pork. Then they make sort of like, if you know what a bechamel sauce is, sort of like one of the mother sauces, they make it with smoked Gouda cheese. So think of like a cheesy sauce for macaroni and cheese, but with smoked Gouda. So you get that smoky flavor with the pulled pork. Then they take macaroni and cheese and put it in a waffle iron. They waffleize the mac and cheese. When you get a waffleized macaroni and cheese as a topping to a sandwich, as a condiment, you know you're in for it. Then they top it with fried jalapenos, sweet potato chips, and their homemade barbecue sauce. That's the 4-courser. So pulled pork, Gouda cheese, smoked Gouda cheese, bechamel sauce, waffleized mac and cheese, sweet potato chips, fried jalapenos, and this nice hickory smoky barbecue sauce. What a sandwich that was. And that was at Curtis Granderson's sports bar. So, yeah, I've definitely got a place in my heart for Curtis. I always really, really liked him. Yeah, no doubt about it. Was a little inconsistent as a Met. You know, he had some big home runs, but he became more of like a power hitting leadoff hitter, where it was almost like a lesser version of Kyle Schwarber, where it felt to be like walk, home run, strikeout. You know, maybe he'd steal a base here and there, but it was interesting. The Mets would have Granderson. Sometimes he'd walk, sometimes he'd lead off, but he was a good piece, and I'm glad the Mets signed him in retrospect. So, what the hell? Let's check on this game. It's now 8-1 Mets, middle of the 4th inning. Did anybody actually think that the Mets were still in a playoff race? I mean, it feels like, well, the Mets are only 6 games out. Yeah, with about 5 teams to jump. You know, if the Mets were 6 games out and they were the first team outside the playoff race, it would be different. But when you have to jump 4 teams or 5 teams and you're 6 games out with basically 55, 60 games left to go, it's not happening. It's just not happening, because what indication do we have they're capable of this? Grandizer, Baba Booey, to you watching K99 and all of your viewers. Thanks for stopping by, buddy. I appreciate it, man. Grandizer, the king of promotions. I don't know if Grandizer is like in public relations or in marketing, but if not, he should be, because I got every confidence that he could rise the ranks in that industry. Another swig of water. Oh, I'll give you another little food thing. So I met up with a couple of friends today, some old friends. I've known them 20 years, married couple. They've got 3 kids now, and I met them when they first actually started dating about 1999. Yeah, I was still in high school at the time. She was my math tutor, and they met in grad school. She met her husband. And her husband, by the way, is a big Mets fan from Queens. So I met them, and they said, we're going to go to this place, Merritt's Grill, in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. It's literally about a quarter mile from the university, which is also the hospital where my mom is. She's at the UNC Medical Center. So they said, we're going to this place, Merritt's Grill. They have great BLTs. Now, I don't know if y'all in the chat are big BLT guys. I'm usually not a big BLT guy. The main reason is I don't eat mayonnaise. I'm not a fan of regular mayo. If it's like a spicy aioli, it's got some garlic in it, it's got some heat in it, it's got some flavor in it, fine. But for the most part, I feel like mayonnaise just overwhelms everything else. So I really don't use it unless I'm mixing a whole lot of other ingredients in with it and making like some kind of another kind of a condiment. But regular mayo, not doing it. So we go in, and it is a complete dive. I mean, this place was like a little gas station for years. So they got 4 sizes of BLT. You got the baby, you got the single, you got the double, and you got the triple. All right. So they layer these up. So the baby, I believe, has 4 slices of bacon. That's just the baby. That's just the little one. Okay. The double, I believe, has 7 slices of bacon. The double, which is what I had 9. And the full one, the triple, had a pound of bacon on it. So this BLT I don't know if I could try to pull this up on my phone. I don't have it on the computer. It's on my cell phone. But I'll try to sort of like zoom in on this a little bit for you, see if that works. Okay, so that's the double. All right, so there's bacon, there's lettuce, there's the tomato. It's really, really layered. But yeah, that is 9 strips of bacon on toasted sourdough bread with lettuce, tomato, and I asked for light mayo, like just enough to sort of give it a little bit of moisture, but yeah, definitely not to the point where it'd be noticeable. And I can assure you, I took that sandwich down without any problem. And it was great to see them drink a nice cheer wine, which is a big North Carolina soda. If you like cherry soda, cheer wine is like the Carolina thing. Robert Bartolo, welcome to the show. Texas comes to Citi Field for 3 games in August. I'm calling it right now. 7 innings, 3 hits, 1 run, and I guarantee it'll be like a solo home run. Yeah, he'll give up like a solo home run and strike out about 11 Mets batters. I think that sounds about right. Yeah, Brett Beatty will strike out 3 times against Scherzer. You can write it down right now. No doubt about it. Scherzer will definitely go 7 innings and pick up the win in that game. I tell you what, I don't sports gamble. I don't really understand sports betting very well, but I would definitely put some money down on Texas that night when Scherzer pitches in Citi Field. I'll tell you what, this ain't going to be no Noah Syndergaard situation. Okay, it will not happen. Remember when Noah Syndergaard came back, with the Dodgers and then with the Phillies, and he just so conveniently didn't happen to be pitching that particular night. It's just like, yeah, not his turn in the rotation, or, oh, he had a hangnail, or, he couldn't straighten out his hair enough today, and he would never, ever pitch against the Mets. Max Scherzer, the competitor, say whatever you want. Max Scherzer never gave you anything than his best on the mound. You can't take that away from him. You can't fault him for that. But he is going to treat that game like it's a playoff game. He is going out there to dominate. Max Scherzer has already thrown 1 no-hitter against the Mets. Now, I don't know if any pitcher in the history of baseball has thrown 2 no-hitters against the same team. In fact, I'm pretty sure that never would have happened. But, if it hasn't, would it really shock anybody if it's Max Scherzer doing it against the New York Mets? I mean, shoot, he was able to do that in 2015 when the Mets were on their way to the playoffs to win the division and become National League champions. Against this lineup, against this all-or-nothing crap mediocre lineup, oh my gosh. That is going to be, oh boy. Get your alcohol ready as Tommy Pham hits a solo home run to center field, and it's merely an 8-2 deficit. Oh, the comeback is on! Woo! Ugh. Yikes. Ugh. Just a mess. But anyway, the bottom line is this. I'm glad that this trade went through. The Mets got a prospect with upper echelon potential, and even the biggest haters of Billy Epler have to acknowledge that he made a trade with great upside, and he got a lot back for Max Scherzer. No matter how much you hate Billy Epler, you could say he finally made his first great trade as New York Mets general manager, proving once again a broken clock is right twice a day. All right, guys. Well, you know what? Maybe I should do some trivia real quick. You know, hey, we're all here right now. You know, I feel like it wouldn't be a proper Watch 2K99 show if I didn't give you a little bit of trivia. So I'm just going to take a second and pull something up here on my phone. We will go ahead and make it a Jets trivia. I didn't have any Mets trivia ready to go, but let's see what we're going to do here. Yeah, let's find a little trivia question here. Trying to find something that's relatively fair. Okay. All right. I'll give you a question here. So here's a New York Jets question. If anybody wants to take a shot at this. So let's see. There have been 4 wide receivers who have had 500-yard receiving seasons for both the Jets and the Washington Redskins. So whatever you want to call them. So 4 wide receivers have had 500 yards in a season for both the Jets and the Redskins. Can you name who it is? Can you name those 4 players? Actually, I got a little intro for you. While you're thinking about it, check this out. Do you like that? We got a little intro now for the trivia. So, you know, we sort of got that little bit of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. So it's Watch 2K99 versus the chat. So there we go. All right. So Post has a correct answer. Santana Moss absolutely is one of them. There are 3 others. If K Yeti, if Grandizer are around, feel free to take a shot at that. And by the way, if anybody wants to actually go ahead and look it up, I will not guilt you for this. Particularly if anybody in Arkansas wants to try to look this up, you have my blessing as well. All right. So Santana Moss is one. Who was Santana Moss traded for? There's a little clue for you. Art Monk. Yep, Art Monk is correct as well. Okay. And there really aren't. Yeah, this question's pretty straightforward. If you know these 2 teams decently, you can absolutely get this question correct. No doubt about it. All right. So Moss is one, Monk is one, and we've got 2 other ones. It's 9:54. I'm going to give us till 10 o'clock. Okay, Post, you're out of guesses. Let me see if I can help you here. He was a Jet very recently, and he's still in the NFL. But he started his career with Washington and came to the Jets. See if that helps you. Rob Bartolo, I know you're a Cowboys fan, so you've probably seen Washington play a time or 2. And you live in New Jersey, so I know you at least know a few Jets. So. Yeah, let's see if we can come up with the other 2. I'm pretty sure that I got confidence we can. Even with maybe 2 or 3 football fans in the chat right now, and I have a whole lot of we did get over 10, I think, for a moment, which was really cool. But yeah, let's see what we can do with the trivia. So Moss is 1, Monk is 1. So again, both the Jets and Redskins, there have been 4 receivers who have put up 500 yards in a season for both the Jets and Washington. We have 2 of the 4, Santana Moss and Art Monk. Can you name the other 2? All right. Meanwhile, back at the depressing City Field, it is now 8-2. You know, I was actually going to be going to Baltimore in the near future in early August when the Mets are there, but I can't because of open house at work. I have to work, so that's not going to work out. And I think it may be a blessing that I won't be able to be there. Although, if you're ever in Baltimore, definitely go to Chap's Pit Beef and Jimmy's Famous Seafood. Those are the two places in Baltimore you cannot miss, especially Chap's Pit Beef. Don't go into the strip club right next door. Got to watch out for that. But with the huge hunks of beef and turkey and then the Italian sausage that they put on the charcoal grill, and then they slice it thin on a meat, shove it into the rolls for you. Oh my gosh, my favorite is probably the beef, corned beef, turkey, and Italian sausage all together. I put on some sliced onion, a little bit of barbecue sauce, get some pickles with that, some fresh cut French fries, and I am eating like a king. I mean, I'll take that over a lot of steaks that I've had, that sandwich. That's how good Chap's Pit Beef is. There's nothing like that, like Chap's in Baltimore. So if you're ever in Baltimore, go to Chap's and go to Jimmy's Famous Seafood. Have some crab. If you're into seafood, yeah, definitely go to Jimmy's. All right, it's 9:57. Don't see any more guesses. Santana Moss is linked with this one other receiver who is definitely more of a Jet than he was a Washington Redskin. And like I said, the other one is still in the NFL, started his career with Washington and went to the Jets. Yep. John Post has it right. Jamison Crowder. Yeah, Crowder started off with Washington and was actually the Jets' leading wide receiver for a season when the Jets had literally no offensive passing game whatsoever. Nothing. It was basically him and Robbie Anderson, for about 2 years there. So we got Moss, we've got Monk, we've got Crowder. There's one more, and he's a really, really good wide receiver. I think one of the best the Jets have ever had. I put him in my top 5 all-time Jets wide receivers. It's 9:58. Going to give you all about less than 2 minutes. We're going to take it till 10 o'clock. Then I'm going to close it, and we're going to give you the last answer if we have to. And then I think we're going to call it a night. But hey, yeah, definitely want to thank everybody who showed up for a very impromptu show tonight. We will be back Wednesday night, and we're going to be going on at 10 p.m. Because I don't want to divide the fan base. I want everybody to be able to watch the shows live. Despite of anything that may have happened, I still think that the right thing to do is for us to all help each other. I just think it's the moral, it's the ethical thing to do. That's what I want to do. So, so I'm going to move my show a little bit for the foreseeable future to 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. So remember to come by Wednesday night. I should be back home in the wicker chair by that point. Right now I'm sitting here in beautiful Cary, North Carolina, just outside of Raleigh, just west of Raleigh. Yeah, Cary's a nice town. A lot of New Yorkers moved down to Cary. Good town. A lot of good people here. Okay, it's 9:59. It was Moss. It was Monk. It was Crowder. Let's see. Yeah. 9:50. Yep, it's still 9:59. Almost out of time here, guys. Yep, it's 9:59. I'm going to stop it at 10 p.m. And then we're going to give you the last answer to the trivia. Moss, Monk, Crowder. Yeah. Anything new happening in the Mets game by any chance? No, 8-2. They put in this kid Reed Garrett. Yeah, the David Robertson replacement. Oh, he's pitched 2 1/3 innings, 3 strikeouts, no runs allowed. Oh, that's good. Now 3 innings. Oh, all right. Reed Garrett's doing pretty well. Okay, that's great. Now watch. He's gonna get put into a big spot. And he's gonna be horrible. A lot of these pitchers the Mets would use. Reed Garrett, by the way, is 30 years old. This guy's no kid. All right. So he has a 7.45 career ERA in 29 innings pitched. He did go to Virginia Military Institute near Charlottesville. So he's from Henrico, Virginia. I know where Henrico is. That's right outside Richmond. Nice. Yeah. Okay, so that's only about an hour from where I live. All right. And it's 10 o'clock. The final correct answer was Lavernius Coles. That's right. Lavernius Coles left the Jets as a free agent along with Randy Thomas, John Hall, and Chad Morton. And then the Jets played them in that first game where it was Patrick Ramsey against Vinny Testaverde in that game, I believe. And the Redskins had that alternate helmet, which had like an arrow on it. It wasn't the Indian head. It was more of like an arrow and a feather look to it. It was a really bad looking uniform. But the only thing that looked worse than the Washington uniforms that night was the way the Jets played. The Jets started Vinny that game. And this was like mid-2000s Vinny. This is a couple of years down the road. 2003, I think the year was, right? And all night long, he was throwing these short dink and dunk passes, like Tom Brady would do. These 5-yard passes, dink and dunk, and let everybody else do the work. This is Vinny Testaverde, who has one of the strongest arms, throws the deep ball beautifully, and he's using him like he's, I don't know, Tim Tebow. It was one of the worst coach games I'd ever seen, but it wasn't too long after that, a couple of years, where the Redskins traded Coles back to the Jets, and the Jets sent Santana Moss over to Washington. And Moss is really more of a Redskin than a Jet anyway, in reality. I think Moss even does some broadcasting for the Redskins as well. I think does some studio work with them from time to time. But yeah, so it was Santana Moss, Art Monk, Jamison Crowder, and Lavernius Cole. So that is your trivia for tonight. And with that in mind, I think we're going to call it an evening. I appreciate everybody coming by. Again, come by and see us Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Remember, and you turn on your notifications on the channels, so whenever I go live, you'll automatically get a notification. All right, guys, thanks again for joining. I'll see you once I am back in the Wicker Chair.